all been in the really frustrating situation where you're working with a group of people and nothing seems to be getting done because no one is willing to step up, make the call, and make a decision. Or the opposite situation where you're with a group and somebody does make a decision, but they don't ask anybody else for input and it turns out to be the wrong one. So today I'm going to talk about a few different decision-making styles and how to choose one that suits the needs of your group so that everybody is happy. When you're making a decision with a group of people, it's very, very important for everybody to know how the decision is being made and who has decision-making power. If you're very clear about that up front, then everybody knows whose responsibility it is to make the decision and how they can contribute to it. So as we're going to talk about, there are quite a few different ways that you can actually make a decision, and they fall along a spectrum of use of authority by leader to sharing authority with everybody else who is a team member or affected by the group decision. And this is the axis that you need to be very clear on so that people know how they're expected to participate in the decision. And some decision-making styles suit situations better than others. So just for the purposes of this video, we're going to use the example of a group of friends, let's say there's 20 of them, who are meeting in the Bay Area to go to a restaurant. And we're just going to talk about some different ways that they can make the decision of which restaurant they'll go to. So in the case of decision by authority, one person would make the decision. Possibly the person who maybe invited all their friends together, they would say, all right, here is where we are going, be here at this time. It's very clear that even if you don't like the restaurant, that's where you're going, so tough luck, deal with it. The decision was made by one authority, that's the final call. You can also have a decision by expert, and in this case, the person with the most knowledge of the restaurants in that area would make the decision. So for example, someone might be like the foodie in the group, and since they've been to like every restaurant in the Bay Area, they would be the person who would make the choice. They're the expert, they have all the relevant knowledge, the decision is theirs to make, they will tell us what restaurant we're meeting at. A minority decision would be when a small group of leaders come together to make the decision for the rest of the group. So in this case, it might be 2 or 3 people who live in the Bay Area, they know all of the good restaurants, they'll come together and choose where everybody is going. That's a minority decision. A consultative decision can happen in a few ways. And the first way would be where a leader would toss out a provisional decision and say, okay friends, I think that we're all meeting at Hero's Sushi House. Tell me if you see any red flags or have any concerns with that. And they might get information back from like a vegetarian saying, oh, I can't eat there, there's nothing on the menu. Or someone else saying, you know, I did a Google search, there's a lot of people getting food poisoning, we shouldn't go there, let's go somewhere else. And then in that case, the person would take all of that information into account, maybe change plans, maybe not. Either way, the decision is theirs. Another way to have a consultative decision would be to solicit advice and feedback just from the group of people who will be affected. They might say something like, I'm planning on taking us all to a restaurant, give me some advice and I'll make the decision from there. And then they would get all of people's specific dietary requirements, that kind of thing. And based on that information, they would choose a restaurant. And the restaurant that they choose is the final decision. They're just basing that choice on a lot of feedback from other people. A next choice is consensus decision. And this brings us over into like the side of the spectrum where all of the team members have a lot of authority. So in a consensus decision, nothing happens until everybody agrees. So this group of friends might be like emailing back and forth for 6 months before they choose a restaurant, since every single person has to agree on the restaurant that they're going to. So this is the kind of decision where it sometimes takes a while because every single person, like the decision has to be completely 100% unanimous. The next decision is a delegated decision. And this is where a delegate or a representative from each different group would send a person to a leadership team and they would make the decision together. So perhaps the vegetarians would volunteer one person to represent their needs. The people who don't like sushi at all would send another person to make sure that there's other things on the menu for them. And this group of people representing the needs of the group would make the decision and then tell everyone else where they're going. That's a delegated decision. And being Americans, we are very familiar with the majority decision. And this is where one person gets one vote, and whichever choice gets the most votes wins. So these are a few different ways that you can go about making a decision, and they all are better and worse for different situations, and that's something that you need to decide on and be very clear about. Communicate that clearly to the people that you're working with so that people know how the decision is being made and how they're expected to participate. When you are working with your groups this week, try practicing some of the decision-making styles and choosing the right style that will lead to a very high-quality decision, depending on the sort of time constraints that you're working with and also the type of knowledge that you have in the group of people that you're working with. If you find yourself in a situation that is totally dysfunctional and no one knows what's going on, check in with the leader and ask, hey, who has the decision-making power here? How are we making this choice? They are completely fair questions, and just by clearing that up, the rest of the process will go smoother for everybody. So have a wonderful week, have a great time playing with decision-making styles, and thank you for watching. Bye.